Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm going to talk today about Mao Zedong's Cultural Revolution, and this was a tragedy in China, and it went on for a little over 10 years. It started around, it started in May of 1966, and it ended with Mao's death when Mao died on September 9th, 1976, at the age of 82. And this revolution was probably was at least responsible for 500,000 deaths, but it may have been as high as 2 million. But it was sources say it's probably 1.5 million deaths. The Guardian did an excellent article on the Cultural Revolution, and the Guardian notes that, but the Guardian really notes between 500,000 and 2 million. But anyways, okay. And the article talks about how what the Cultural Revolution was is Mao Zedong, after the Great Leap Forward, which happened shortly after Mao took power, it was responsible for about 45 million deaths as a result of the famine that took place, because Mao told all the farmers to stop what they were doing to make steel, and the Chinese peasants had a furnace in their yard to help make steel. Well, there was no farming that went on, so everybody starved, or a lot of people starved, I should say. And it was just a horrible situation. So the Communist Party basically just had Mao as a figurehead, and they were running the country because they were trying to reduce the poverty problem. Well, Mao didn't like that. So what Mao did was Mao told a bunch of teenagers to follow him, and there were people in the Communist Party who were communist in name only, and he mainly named a lot of the students teachers and a lot of college professors, intellectuals, and then some low-ranking communist officials that people saw day in and day out. I mean, students believed that because even when Mao was just a figurehead, he was seen as a larger-than-life figurehead. So students believed him, and they wore a red armband on their arms, and there were situations where students beat their teachers to death and beat them to death in the stairwell of the school. Sometimes they would force the teachers to sit on dynamite and make the teacher light the dynamite themselves. Students used anti-aircraft guns on teachers, and students were so young. Many of them were 12, 13 years old. They didn't know any better, and Mao was seen as a figurehead. They weren't mature enough to make their own decisions at the time, and Mao brainwashed them. There was, and France 24 English did a good piece on the 50th anniversary of the Cultural Revolution. Last year, 2016 was its 50th anniversary, and they interviewed a guy named Zhang Hongjing, and he turned in his mother, and because his mother had said was she didn't believe Mao Zedong wrote the Little Red Book, and he turned in his mother, and the government arrested and tortured his mother, and he feels responsible for his mother's death, and his dad and brothers have basically cut ties with him. He still doesn't see his family. He said it was the biggest mistake he made, turning in his mother. He believed he had been brainwashed, and he highly regrets that decision. And then there was another lady that they interviewed, and the Chinese government killed her parents during the Cultural Revolution, and she went into exile in Paris, and she can return to China now, and she splits time between Paris and China. And in 1981, the Communist Party did recognize the Cultural Revolution as a mistake, but they don't talk about it very much. And the few monuments in China that are dedicated to the Cultural Revolution and its victims, they're hidden in very secluded and very secretive parts. There are art galleries that commemorate the Cultural Revolution and do paintings and things like that, but they run the risk of being shut down. If the government finds out about it, they risk being shut down, trying to cover it up, because the party does see Mao as making mistakes in the Cultural Revolution, but they still see him as a uniting figurehead for China, and so they try to minimize that. And even like where Mao Zedong was born in the Hunan province in Shaoxing, his birthplace attracts 8 million visitors a year, which I don't like, because the Red Guards who were Red Guards in the Cultural Revolution that have a lot of them largely regret their decision to do all they did in the Cultural Revolution. As I said before, Mao Zedong is responsible for 70 million deaths. I made a slip of the tongue in the previous video I made about Mao and said 7 million deaths, but no, it was 70 million deaths. He was responsible for more deaths than Hitler. And Mao didn't admit his mistake in the Great Leap Forward. As I've said before, Peng Dehuai, who led the Chinese forces in the Korean War, he criticized Mao's Great Leap Forward, but Mao sent him into exile in the countryside and put him under house arrest, basically. So, anyways, the Cultural Revolution was a scar on Chinese society, and it was just a horrible situation that was responsible for at least 500,000 deaths. And it was just a horrible situation. One time, students busted in their teacher's apartment and cut all the teacher's hair off as a female teacher. That was a minor one with some of the stuff that was done. Students denounced their parents, turned their parents into the Communist Party, turned their parents into Mao Zedong. Eventually, Mao sent a lot of the students into the countryside for re-education. He said the Cultural Revolution was getting out of hand with some of that, but he was basically unwilling to admit the mistake. He blamed the students that he brainwashed for the trouble he caused. Anyways, hope everyone's doing well. Take care. God bless them. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.